Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial. This time we're gonna install WordPress on Debian 11 server. As you can see, I'm already logged in through PowerShell to my server. So just a brief interview or a brief explanation about this installment. So as you all might know or might not know, WordPress is quite a popular tool used to build websites and features to help you publish anything anywhere. It is also a open source software you can use to create some nice sites, blogs or apps. So in this tutorial we'll be installing WordPress on Debian 11 system along with some LAMP stacks, including Nginx, web server, MariaDB for the database of course, and PHP for handling WordPress applications. Okay, so first of all we'll start with installing Nginx web server. So for that I'm just gonna use apt-get install Nginx. Well, unfortunately my speed is quite low here, so that's why it takes so long. But I decided to make this tutorial because many installments of WordPress are based also on Apache. So you can do it also with an Apache web server, but I'm gonna use Nginx this time. Because in my previous videos I based many of the things that I showed, like Nextcloud, OnCloud on Apache. Right, so we got that. So once the installation is completed, we need to enable Nginx to start automatically upon system boot. Start the web server and verify, of course, the status of our commands that were made before. So first, systemctl start Nginx. We're gonna start the service. Now we're gonna enable the service. And at the end we need to check the status of the service, so everything is active and running. The next step is going to be, of course, installing PHP and MariaDB server. So we're going to install PHP, PHP FPM and MariaDB packages. And for that I'm just going to clear the screen here. We will use here quite long command, so we're gonna install quite a lot of things regarding PHP and MariaDB as well, of course the client as well. And of course, once this installation is going to be completed, we're going to enable MariaDB to start up automatically upon system boot. Then we're going to start the MariaDB and verify the status using the command systemctl status MariaDB, just to check if the service is running how it should. So all the stuff is being installed right now. Now the necessary PHP files, modifications. As you can see, we have PHP 7.4 here. Alright, so of course now let's just start MariaDB, enable everything. And at the end, let's check the status of the service. So everything is up and running, it's active. Right, so next step is going to be enabling PHP FPM service. So we're going to do the same. Let's do systemctl start PHP 7.4 FPM. We're going to enable this right now. And at the end, of course, let's check the status. Everything is fine. Okay, so finally, we will want to secure our MariaDB installation. So for that, we're going to use MySQL secure installation. Here you need to input your root password. And next, of course, we're gonna use switch to Unix authentication, change root password. Now remove the anonymous users. Yes. Disallow root login remotely. Yes. Remove test database. Yes. Reload privileges. Yes. Now we're gonna create our database. So let's go to our MySQL. And we will create a new database. I'm just gonna call it Wordpress DB because it's easy to remember. Now next we're gonna create a new MySQL user account that we'll use to operate on WordPress's new database with the username is gonna be, in my case at least, gonna be WordPress, just an easy one because it's just for test purpose. It's gonna be WordPress, and that identified by the password. So my username is gonna be WordPress, and the password for my user is gonna be just password. You can change it here to whatever you want. So you can input your own password here and your username here as well. Next, we need to link the user and the database together by granting our user access to the database. So for that, we're gonna use grant all privileges to WordPress database for our WordPress user. And at the end, we're gonna flash the privileges so the SQL knows about the user permission we just added. And now we'll just exit. Alright, so now what we need to do, we'll need to actually download our WordPress. So for that I'm gonna use wget, which I already have. If you don't have it, you can just download it by inserting here apt install wget. So this is the link for WordPress, the latest, of course, WordPress. This is the best way to use it, so because they are removing this package, and every time the new version comes up they are just replacing the version here, so the best link, I guess. Now we're gonna pull down the installation. After that, since it's in a package, we need to use we need to unzip the file. So I'm gonna pause the video and wait until it finishes. Okay, so the installation is almost completed. Okay, so now we need to unpack everything. And of course we need to change the permission of the site directory and revert changes after installing WordPress. So we're gonna use for that chown, of course the www-data user, that's the usual one that is used. And the same goes for here. Next step is going to be creating an Nginx virtual host. So we're going to create a virtual host server blocks for a WordPress website, an Nginx server. So first of all, what we need to do is actually going to open up in etc nginx conv.dwordpress.conf, so the configuration file, and we are going to add some content to it. So this will be our basic content for WordPress.conf, which is going to be our basic and main configuration file in this case. So as you can see, listening on port 80, so it's basic HTTP, at least for now. Without this is our error log. It's located here in the var logs nginx. The same goes for access log. It's located here, the access log. Client max body size 100 megs. We're gonna change it up a little bit afterwards. Now let's just save it. Next, we need to remove the default server block to enable our WordPress website, our wordpress.conf. For that, we're gonna remove from Etsy and Nginx sites enabled the default. And we're also gonna remove from Etsy and Nginx sites available the default. And next, we will just test our Nginx for syntax errors. So let's check our configuration file. As you can see, the test was successful. So now all we need to do is just to reload our Nginx. And let's just pull up web browser. I'm gonna use HTTP. And there we go. For now, of course, everything is insecure. So we can proceed. We have here WordPress DB, of course. The username was WordPress. The password was just password. Table prefix, I'm gonna leave the default. Let's run the installation. Site title, I'm just gonna call it username. I'm just gonna pick. Gonna save this. And my email address, well, I'm just gonna input some bogus stuff that I'm not gonna use anyway. And now, as you can see, the installation was successful. Now we just need to log in. So I'm just gonna scratch this. And let's log into our WordPress. And there we go. We are in our WordPress installation. Or in this case, our WordPress website. So, okay, so everything is set up. It stands on Nginx and MariaDB. So, the first thing I would like to do here, of course, is to secure this with SSL. Since I don't have any domain that I actually bought on the internet, I cannot use Let's Script here, because if you don't buy any, you cannot use the Let's Script because it won't work. So in this case, I can only show you how to do it with a self-signed certificate. Of course, if you have a bot domain, you can use Let's Script, and it's easier and probably more safe than a self-signed certificate. But just for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna show you how to actually secure it without help of Let's Script. Okay, so first thing we need to do, we'll just close this. We'll clear everything. And of course, we will need to open first of all, we'll need to actually create the SSL certificate here. So TLS and SSL function by a combination of public certificate and private key. The SSL key is kept secret on the server and encrypts content sent to clients. The SSL certificate is publicly shared with anyone requesting the content. It can be used to decrypt the content signed by the associated SSL key. So let's create all the necessary things for us. So we're gonna create the SSL certificate with this. As you can see, we are using sudo here for 365 days, so for full year. This is the RSA. You could change it up probably to the 4096 if you would like to. I'm gonna leave it on default. Our key is gonna be signed to /SSL private nginx self-signed.key, and of course our certificate is gonna be in /SSL certs nginx self-signed cert. So let's create. Alright, so if we will go right now here, change directory, as you can see there is the self-signed key, and let's go here to the certificates, change the directory again. We need to find our self-signed certificate nginx. So there we go, here it is. Okay, so we have our key and our certificate created right now. So as an optional thing, you can always also, while using OpenSSL, you should also create a strong Diffie-Hellman's group, which is used in negotiation, perfect forward secrecy with clients. So actually, to create this deform PAM, you can use this. So it's gonna be sudo openssl deform alt /nginx deform PAM, and it's gonna be encrypted with this time 4096 encryption. So I think I will leave it for now, because this actually takes some time when you put it on. I will just skip it for now, but I strongly suggest you use it. Okay, so next thing we will want to do, we'll actually create a configuration snippet pointing to the SSL key and the certificate. So it will be easier for us just to create this snippet and then put it in our main configuration file. So first what we need to do is, of course, we're gonna create this snippet, and it's gonna be with sudo. I'm gonna use nano for this, and the snippet is gonna be in etc nginx snippets, and it's gonna be called self-signed configuration. When I open this, I will add here the SSL certificate and SSL key. So as you can see, I'm adding the certificate and the certificate key here alongside with the locations of both. Now let's save it. So now in this configuration file we have everything that we need about our certificates. So we don't need to type it in our main config file. Okay, so the next thing that we would like to do is actually create another configuration snippet, but this time with strong encryption settings. So for this we're gonna actually create another snippet, and it's gonna be, this time we're gonna call it, it's gonna be again sudo nano etc nginx snippets, and it's gonna be called SSL params, so parameters, sslparameters.conf. And here we're gonna actually put some quite valid stuff. So maybe let's first start with SSL protocols. So that's the first thing we need to put here. Second thing is gonna be SSL prefer server ciphers on, which actually I'm just gonna put here. What is this? Well, this specifies that server ciphers should be preferred over client ciphers when using the SSL v3 and TLS protocols. Next thing, what we would actually use here in our configuration to harden our SSL, can use of course the SSL deform. So the Diffie-Hellman encryption group that I was actually talking about, the PAM that we would like to have, and I showed you how you can create. So you can put it here if you have it, and I don't have it right now, so just gonna do it like that. The next thing we're gonna do the SSL ciphers. There's quite a lot of those ciphers here. Well, as you can see, quite a lot of them. Okay, the next thing is gonna be SSL ECDH curve. So when using OpenSSL 1.0.2 or higher, it is possible to specify multiple curves. So let's do it. Okay, next thing is gonna be SSL session timeout. So I'm gonna change that from 10 to 5. So this specifies the time duration which a client may reuse the session parameters. Okay, next thing is gonna be SSL session cache shared, which I'm gonna also change to 5. So using only shared cache without the built-in cache should be more efficient. Thanks to that. Okay, next thing is gonna be SSL session tickets off. So turning off the tickets. So enables or disables a session resumption through TLS session tickets. Next thing we're gonna use is SSL stapling. We're gonna use it on, set it on. Enables or disables stapling of OCSP responses by the server. And of course, we're gonna also use SSL stapling verify on. So the verification enables or disables verification of OCSP responses by the server. Okay, so I think we got that almost covered. Now let's also add SSL buffer. So we're gonna add SSL buffer size 4K. By default the buffer size is 16K, which responds to minimal overhead when using big responses. To minimize the time to first byte, it may be beneficial to use smaller values. So in this case we are giving only 4. I will also add here in SSL resolver. So let's add the resolver as well, which is also going to be of course the Google ones, 888 and 8844, and the validation in how many seconds. And I'm gonna add also the resolver timeout, 5 seconds. Okay, so I think that's gonna be it. I'm just gonna save the configuration file. Now let's do nginx -t just to check. Sorry, I'm gonna okay, so the test was successful, so everything is fine. Let's do just restart nginx. Now we can pull up our installation, sorry, our website. I'm just gonna refresh everything here. Okay, or maybe even use this, and I'm gonna just scratch all the cookies. See you later. You're gone. I'm gonna do now HTTP. Okay, now let's go to admin, and as you can see, we couldn't actually establish the connection here. Let's try login. Right. So all we need to do now, we'll need to go to our, of course, configuration file. Let's go to our main configuration file. And here in our configuration file, we're just gonna add two things. First thing we're gonna add is include snippets self-signed configuration, and the second one we're gonna just copy this, paste it again here, and I'm gonna change this to SSL params. So the parameters, SSL parameters, let's just save it. Now let's do nginx -t. Test was successful, restart nginx, okay. And what are we gonna do next? We need to actually open our config file again. And we need to set up, of course, SSL connection. So, alright, so this is our configuration file. What we need to change here, actually, first of all, we need to change the port 443 SSL, of course. We need to scratch this. We won't be using this anymore. Now we're gonna just save it. Let's do nginx -t, and of course restart the nginx service. Now let's just refresh, and well, there you go. Just gonna do, yeah, so as you can see, the certificate is valid. It's for the IP address of the server. So we can of course log in now here if we would like to. Okay, so next thing, since we have SSL working in our configuration file, and we have already set up like two main files, so the self-signed snippet file, and the other one is our SSL snippet with parameters. The next thing that we would like to set up is our headers snippet configuration file that is going to contain all the necessary headers and security things, of course, related to those headers. So we're gonna do now sudo nano etc nginx snippets, and we are gonna create headers configuration. And here in our headers configuration, we will actually need to begin first with, well, HTTP strict transport security, which is called HSTS. So this header instructs a user agent to only use HTTPS connections, and it is also declared by strict transport security. This will prevent web browsers from accessing web servers over non-HTTPS connections. Currently, all major web browsers support HTTP strict transport security. The strict transport security header is ignored by the browser when your website is accessed over HTTP. This is because an attacker may intercept HTTP connections and inject the header or remove it. So that's how it looks. A brief disclaimer about adding the header. So this is how it actually should look like. Add the header, strict transport security, max age, include subdomains, preload. So this is the first header that we need to add in our headers configuration. Second, we're gonna use content security policy, which is called CSP. The content security policy header is an improved version of the XXSS protection header and provides an additional layer of security. It is very powerful header aimed prevent XSS and data injection attacks. CSP instruct browser to load allowed content to load on the website. All major browsers currently offer full or partial support for content security policy. So as you can see now, we're gonna go for the security policy, which is gonna look like this. Add header content security policy, default source, cell, font, source, image source, data, script source, style source. Next we're gonna go for XSS protection. So XXSS protection, also known as cross-site scripting header, is used to defend against cross-site scripting attacks. So XSS filter is enabled by default in modern web browsers such as Chrome, IE and Safari. This header stops pages from loading when they detect reflected cross-site scripting attacks. Okay, so we're gonna use this as well. We're gonna add the header. So x-xss protection equals 1 mode block. Okay, the next header we're gonna use is called xframe. So the xframe options header is used to defend your website from clickjacking attacks by disabling iframes on your site. Currently, it is supported by all major web browsers. With this header, you tell the browser not to embed your web page in iframe. Okay, and there is like 3 options here that you can use. The first option is deny. This will disable iframe features completely. Some origin iframe can be used only by someone on the same origin, and allow from. This will allow pages to be put in iframes only from specific URLs. Well, for my configuration, I'm just gonna pick deny. You can also always pick whichever option you want. I'm gonna use at headers xframe option deny. Right. So the next header is gonna be xcontent type options. So the xcontent type header, also called browser sniffing protection, to tell the browser to follow the meme type indicated in the header. It is used to prevent web browsers such as Internet Explorer and Google Chrome from sniffing a response away from the declared content type. No sniff header does not protect all sniffing related vulnerabilities. Also, there is no valid value for this header except no sniff. So we can only choose the no sniff option here. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna add the next header. So add header X content type options no sniff. Okay, and the next header is called referrer policy. So the referrer policy is a security header field that identifies the address of the web page that requested the current web page. By changing the referrer, the new web page can see where the request originated. The referrer policy can be configured to cause the browser not to inform the destination site URL information. Okay, so let's use the referrer policy as well. With strict origin, it's called header referrer policy strict origin. And last header is gonna be permissions policy. The permissions policy is a new header that allows sites to control which APIs or features can be used in the browser. So we're gonna add this as well. Since this is quite long, it looks like this: add header permission policy geolocation. And here is all the stuff. Gyroscope equals full screen equals self-payment equals. Okay, so basically this is gonna be it for the headers configuration. I'm just gonna save it here. And that's another thing that we should actually add to our config file. So going back to our wordpress.conf, and we're gonna include our snippet headers. And it's called headers.conf. Now we can save everything. Let's just check with nginx -t. The test was successful. Now let's just restart nginx. And of course, let's clear everything out again. I'm gonna clear the cookies once more. Open up HTTPS. And I'm gonna use here. Okay. So, well, I think that's it for this video. There is still quite a lot of things that I wanted to add, because there is another snippet that is called security, and you can input quite a lot of security things in there that are gonna also change some things here. But I think I'm gonna leave it for the next video. So we're gonna come back here to configuring the security from the server side and from the configuration side. After all of this is done, we're gonna just go inside our WordPress, and from there we're gonna configure all the stuff related to plugins. So once we are done with actual configuration here and with our config file, we're gonna go inside and we're gonna install all the plugins. I'm gonna talk about them a little bit. I'm gonna show you some stuff that you can do with those plugins. Okay, so for now, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Of course, if you feel like being a supporter, you can always visit my Patreon page. And well, I will see you in the next one.